Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We're going to do part 2 now of that little 83 Dodge. Moved it over to Jesse's shop now just because he's got a hoist so I can put it up in the air and be able to get a look at some other stuff. He's actually working on his first gen right now. Welding in a new seam there for his windshield. It's pretty rusted out. But the rest of the truck's in pretty good shape, so he's kind of working on this thing right now. Show you a little something what he's on here. So, and then on my end of it here, I guess I didn't really show in the last video there that I had pulled out the heater box. So I got a big giant hole here now that I'm going to end up building a panel for. Got a bunch of my tools in here, so yeah, we're going to be. I already have cut out a template there to fit that, and then I'm toying with the idea of mounting all my fuse block and everything all right on that piece, which would be kind of nice as long as everything reaches to where it needs to, distributor wide and around to the battery and whatnot. So I cut out this template here, and so we're gonna just do a bit of a trim there and get that sucker massaged and in there nice. So we'll see how that goes. Alright, so there's the finished product. Those washers are a little bit big, but it doesn't look too bad. And it has a lot more room now in here for eventually when I run a turbo, that I can run the downpipe potentially down through there. So, and then I just use this weather strip here. It's about 1/2 inch thick here, or actually 1/4 by 3/4 inch thick. And then yeah. Gives me a bunch of room in here too, so I can maybe mount stuff to the back of that depending on how the wiring can be ran. So all right, I'm back from work, so I'm gonna start getting back on this thing again. So what I was doing last time was getting all the wiring pulled out, and then kind of off camera we just kind of routed some of this wiring through the firewall here. I made a bit of a patch down in there, but I really don't like that. So I've kind of decided to do something a little bit different here. And what I'm actually gonna do on this thing is right in behind the kind of on that top corner of this plate I built, or possibly just behind, I'm actually going to run the wiring through there. That way it's kind of more hidden, and it's not not going to be kind of very seen, hopefully. And then any of the wiring that does have to come forward can go up into that drip rail and either come this way or this way, depending on which way I decide to run it. So in terms of doing that, I was kind of looking at different ideas, because I'd like to have actually all of my electronic components inside underneath the dash. And so it would just work really well over there. But what I was trying to figure out is the best way to have that wiring go through. Having just a kind of a big hole there was a bit of annoying and potential for cutting the wires. Obviously a guy could use a grommet, but it's kind of a big big pain right there. So I was at the local hardware store and happened to find a vacuum cleaner nozzle. So what I'm going to attempt to do is cut kind of the front section of this out and actually have it on an angle, and then I'll kind of bolt it through here is kind of the plan. If it looks terrible, I'm not going to do it, but I figured that way if it was flush mounted in kind of in there, it would kind of protect the wiring coming through here, that it wouldn't be rubbing on sharp metal or anything like that. So I'm gonna play around with it a little bit and see if that is something that'll work, that won't look terrible. Obviously on this side, all you would see is kind of this coming through, so it would sit in there like that basically, and then all that wiring can kind of run through there. We'll see. If it looks terrible, I'm not gonna do it, but I figured I'd be try and make that work, and then that way if it does work, then great, we're good to go. But I'll keep going here and then get that fuse block mounted. When I first routed this wiring, I kind of planned to put it where the factory Dodges sat, which is about here. But then it's just the lag room aspect of it, and I know on most of my old Dodges like that this guy was always hanging down. It was kind of a pain. So if I can run everything kind of back, and I was actually going to run this guy kind of sideways, but about right at the tunnel there is kind of the idea. So we'll see how that works, see what I come up with, I guess. But yeah, should be kind of interesting. And since I've been home, I also picked up a few things while I was gone, or ordered some stuff in. Kind of show you what I got here. So the alternator and power steering pump has always sat goofy, and that V-belt just screams, which has always annoyed me. So I actually picked up, this is the alternator bracket for the Dodges. It's actually a Summit brand one, so we'll see how that goes. It actually looks kind of nice machine. I got a Borgeson, I think that's how you say it, bracket for the power steering, and it's quite a bit more heavy duty, so that should be kind of nice too. And then I actually got a PowerMaster alternator as well. And the reason I got this was, might not be able to get out of the box, but let me just squeeze this out of here quick. The reason I got this guy was because I've heard with some of these fuel injection kits that they want to see them with more amps going to them. So that was one of my reasoning for it. Oh, this bench is a mess. So there we go. It's a pretty nice looking unit. It'll be nice and shiny on there, but and then it's a one wire as well. That was the other big thing. I know a lot of guys will go to the GM stuff, but this one really wasn't that terrible a price. So all this stuff I just ended up getting from Summit, but that's pretty exciting because I got that. And as well as that, I did also order a bunch of turbo stuff as well. So that's coming here the beginning or middle of this month. We're in February now, so yeah, so that's exciting. Once this stuff's in here, I'm gonna kind of focus on, I want to get the thing running and everything with the fuel injection kind of first. I have an MSD box coming as well. So I want to get all that stuff going so that the truck isn't stranded type of thing. And then once I know that I'm ahead of the game, I can start kind of doing the turbo stuff. So that'll be the fabricating for all that. But I do have it coming, so that's very exciting because I think that's going to make this truck a lot more fun. So, but we'll focus on this for now and get it going. So, okay, so that's the that little hose coming through there was from the that vacuum end I put on, and I was able to, I cut most of it away, but I was able to leave kind of a little tab here to bolt through. I kind of left these little wings to add a little bit more strength, but and then cut this all out. And so now, at least when I run all my wiring through there, it's at least just plastic, and so then it's less chance of it getting cut, which I think actually is going to be okay. You're not even going to really see that once this dash is back in either, but I'm okay with that. I think it'll be all right. It's not the most perfect looking thing, but it'll work. And then I also kind of left a little bit of an or kind of notched it inside here so that when I put my wiring through, I could potentially put a zip tie around this portion of it, and then kind of to hold that that wiring all together. So stop it from moving. Shouldn't move too much anyway, but stop it from moving anyway. So I think that's gonna work. So now next up, I'll pull all this wiring from over here, get all this stuff out, run it through there, and then I'll kind of set my fuse block in here and see. I think the way I was kind of planning was to have it kind of sideways in here. That way it just kind of goes in on an angle, and then less bends and that kind of thing in it too. And then any of the wiring that basically will stay inside, needs to stay inside, and then I can run this stuff out straight out to the engine. Shouldn't be a ton of wiring, but there's definitely going to be some. I can run the stuff that goes to the tail end of it, goes straight down through the tunnel, and kind of out of the way there. And then this stuff that's up on top, the front lights and everything, will come up into this drip rail here, and then I'll run it depending on which way is the best way. Probably that way, just being that the battery's over in this corner. I'll run that wiring through there with that nicer braided loom that I have, and then I think it will be mostly tucked, the wire tucked, hopefully to some degree. I'm just trying to make sure everything's going to look good for when this thing gets bodywork and whatnot. I was just talking to Dad about doing the bodywork on this thing, and we kind of got a plan for painting all the inside of this engine compartment. So anyway, that should work. So I'm going to kind of work on routing all this wiring through, and then try and make a mount now for the fuse block. And then once that's kind of handled there, then I'll start and go through all this wiring here, and start kind of hooking stuff up. I'm going to try and get the engine stuff done probably somewhat first, just because I kind of want to be able to fire this thing up and move it to some degree. So that means getting the fuel injection on, pull the intake off so I can fix some of these terrible leaks that I have, and then alternator and stuff like that too. So that should work all right. Okay, it still kind of looks like a rat's nest, but I went through kind of off camera and separated everything. So we have the tail section over here. This stuff all here this is all the front lighting and whatnot, and then power and stuff. So I'm going to run all of that along that drip rail and inside the fender. This is all the stuff that's going to go to the engine, which actually some of these I won't even be using because some of my gauges that I'll be using are mechanical. So those are for electronic gauges. So I went through and kind of just separated all that, went through all of the wiring and through this book here, which is extremely handy to have. And then I just basically kind of bundled, or any of the ones that were bundled, I just kind of wrote where they were going and understood the circuits just for a little bit easier. Like each wire does obviously say what's going on with them, but I can tell this one's for gauges and that kind of thing really quickly. So I think I'm kind of done for today, but, at least now I can kind of get everything ran possibly. And then I did actually in this harness, because I knew I was going to be taking away some of the, or not using some of the harness. I took a bunch of the air conditioning stuff, wiring and stuff off, and some of it I routed inside because I'll be running all my ignition stuff and everything in here. So all that stuff was kind of run out through the firewall, so I rerouted it back inside so it'll come in here. But so I'll get started probably on that tomorrow and start getting some of that stuff ran a little bit better. Okay, so this weekend I was able to go to a swap meet in town and picked up a little intake manifold for this thing. It's a Performance World, I believe, brand. There's the part number for it there. It's dual drilled for Magnum heads or LA heads, and then they just have these like little push in hardware that go into the holes that you don't use to cover them up. So that'll be a nice addition, as that's the one that came off. So it was kind of a pile of crap. I tried to kind of clean it up, but it looks pretty rough. So I was like, it's about time to get another intake manifold. That one's actually an air gap dual plane, which is like apparently very similar to the Edelbrock air gaps. So I'm in here right now, just kind of checking everything out, getting everything clean to put it in there. It's a good time to check out how my cam's doing, seeing as how I
Last time I was in here, I actually built this engine, so then it's kind of nice to make sure everything's working good. Cam looks really, really fine, so that's good. I got my new alternator on. Some of this stuff I did off camera just because it was a little bit easier for me to just kind of focus on trying to get some work done. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. These brackets, I think I said in one of the last videos there, those are actually right off of Summit, I believe. They're Summit brand ones, and so they're all nice and billet. It went together really good. The only thing that I would say I'm a little concerned about is, I don't know if we'll be able to see, but the adjuster right there, the threads were like really close to right on the outside edge to get kind of where I wanted to get to with the tension on the belt. So that would be the only thing I would say that I'm a little bit nervous about. But other than that, it went together really good. I really like how that one's set up. I was going to do my power steering pump bracket, but I have to pull the pulley off the front of it to be able to get to the bolts from behind to take all the old assembly off, because it's such a gong showing behind there. So that'll be nice to kind of simplify all that new bracket. I have just bolts in from the backside, so it should be good. With this intake manifold going on, I just went to the hardware store today. I'm actually going to be, because I'm not running a heater in this truck, or at least a coolant heater, I'm gonna get rid of the bypass and then into the intake manifold as well. So I have a plug that I can do to put into the front of that intake manifold there, and then that'll kind of eliminate that. That little hose is always kind of leaked on me, and I think it looks kind of silly, so it'd be nice if I could kind of block that off. So just getting ready to put the new intake manifold on, and then once that's on, I should be able to set, what my whole plan was is I'll be able to set the fuel injection on and kind of get it in place and everything. And then I can kind of run my wiring after that. I guess I could have ran some of this other stuff, but I kind of was just wanting to get that in place, and then I can kind of focus on this other stuff. I want to get all the wiring done for the engine so I can actually drive this thing. So. Okay, so there's the intake on there. I went with the socket head style bolts just because they looked a little bit nicer, and in these spots over here, they're a little bit tighter. So I figured an Allen key would be a better way to go about that than the crappy old bolts. So I did run out. I thought I had enough bolts, and I had to run back to the hardware store. So I have enough now. I'm going to get that finished up. I did get plugs for these and taps now. I'm trying to decide. I'm probably going to have to pull this water pump off because I don't want to contaminate the inside of it with filings, and I'm probably going to actually snip these off too and try and get them a little more flush, just because them sticking out like this looks kind of dumb too. So I'll do that, and I can set that throttle or the fuel injection on, or plug off any of the ports I need to. Stuff that I need to, and put sensors in where I need to as well. And then I can put that fuel injection on and kind of run the wiring to it from the kit itself too. So trying to just get everything all in place and then run the wiring to where it needs to go, type of deal. So okay, so I just put all the bolts in the intake manifold now. These are the little caps that I put in. That's for the Magnum holes. So these are the LA ones. These you just beat into the hammer. I'd recommend using a brass punch on those. I don't have one, so I was using just a little ball peen hammer, and it worked, but it mars them up a little bit. So something maybe a little easier on those would be, they're aluminum, so they're going to deform a little bit anyway. But now I got my thermostat housing in. This one's just a cheap one off Summit. It's got an O-ring instead of a gasket. Just seemed like a better option. I have a brass plug here for this guy. I don't like the look of the brass, so I'm going to go with the the style that came with this intake manifold. So they're just a little bit nicer looking. They're a little, won't stick out like a sore thumb on there, hopefully. So I'm gonna have to try and get some of those. But I'm gonna try and I'm gonna put the valve covers, and I'm gonna throw the fuel injection on now, and I'm just getting excited to kind of see what it looks like on there. So I'll get that stuff on there, and then we'll probably end the video off. So, all right, so that's what it looks like. Looks pretty stinking spiffy. So I just have it set on there right now because I need to get some senders and that kind of thing, put my oil pressure sender and that kind of stuff in. And I just found out too, or realized that the gauges I was planning on using are all manual, so I'm gonna have to either go with a different set of gauges or something. So anyways, that is the product. There's still a bunch of stuff I want to try and kind of get for the next kind of video or the next segment there. I'm going to be going up to work, so I'm going to try and get as much stuff done as I can, and then when I'm home, try and put out some content and whatnot on this thing too. I'm planning to have it out for the spring and be driving it around. So whether or not that's with the turbo on, I'm not really sure. I have all that stuff now, but I don't know. I kind of want to get the thing running properly and all that kind of stuff before I really start going into the fabrication side. And there's still quite a bit to do. So anyways, next thing, I guess, once all this stuff is bolted down, I kind of get all these little odds and ends in, I might pull the box off and do the fuel system back there. Just make sure that the supply line from the fuel tank and everything to the fuel pump is going to be okay, because I don't know if it's really tiny or not. So that's kind of the next thing on the list, and then hopefully I can kind of test run it and see how that works, and get the lighting and stuff wired up on this thing. So I'm trying to do as much as I can with this thing on my days off and whatnot. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys.